Welcome back to the channel. Today what I'm going to be doing is getting the steering column back in the Hellcat station wagon, and there are a few things that I need to fabricate to get it to finally be in the car and make everything work well together. What I need to do is get rid of this clock spring right here. So this is an SXT column, which I really like because it's a manual column. The Hellcat steering columns are all electric, which makes them a lot heavier. So this is a lot lighter. I really don't see a need to have an electric column. The only thing it's good for is if you have auto sets on your seats and then it adjusts the column to whatever number your seat's set at. So that being said, I really don't care about that. I'm going to set this column. It's going to be one and done. But then the other thing I'm going to have to modify is this steering shaft right here. So on the Chargers and Challengers, this is a slip joint and it goes down to the steering rack. But I'm using the Trackhawk steering rack, which isn't going to work because I need a U-joint right after the firewall. So I'm going to need a U-joint here. If I retain the slip shaft, there would be issues with the steering shaft binding, which is not good ever. But I do want to retain this accordion piece right here. So this is built into the steering shaft. So if you get in a really hard wreck, it accordions this piece instead of pushing the steering column into the driver. So I want to retain that, but I need to get rid of this piece of plastic right here. What I ended up finding was this roller bearing piece for the steering shaft out of a Jeep. And this is going to hold the shaft nice and tight. It also has a seal right there. It's all sealed on both sides. And it also has a little bit of misalignment built into this. So it's a really nice unit. I could think of a lot of applications I could use this for. And then I'm using the piece out of an older Magnum since it doesn't have the piece for this in there, because the older Magnums had like that weird sloppy like weird U-joint. It had like a shaft and then it had like a 90 degree and then it rotated on the outside of the shaft. I don't even know how that stuff works, but I'm gonna make a plate and weld it on this inner circle right here and then have this bolt directly on. But I need to be able to get this to bolt in the car, so I'm gonna have to cut this off right here. Now that I have the steering column all sorted out, I want to install these rear door harnesses. So these are out of a Hellcat. They're a little bit different than the normal ones because they have a rear tweeter that is in that rear door. So I want to get this installed just so I don't have to worry about it. And then these harnesses won't be laying around anymore. Last night I 3D printed a test piece that uses that support bearing for the steering shaft. I actually found out that a 21mm socket is the perfect diameter, and since I don't have a way to make anything that size, I'm probably just going to sacrifice a 21mm socket and make it part of the steering shaft. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bolt it in there and see how close it is. As you can see, it already has offset going up, so I think we'll be okay. But just setting in there, and it looks like everything is going to be in line. The steering shaft is actually still a little bit too long, so I need to chop. I'm going to probably chop off 3 of these. I have everything on the steering column fabricated minus this one 3D printed plate, which I'm going to have Sen cut out for me. But I'm really happy that I found that bearing bushing, because that holds the steering shaft in there really nice and tight compared to the factory Charger and Challenger one, where there's a lot of slop. The less slop you have in your steering, the better the feel, especially on the road course. And then from there to the steering rack, I'm going to be using something similar to this 240Z steering shaft, where it's really thin, and then it's going to have a U-joint somewhere right there. It's going to come along the frame rail, which this one's bent, so it can't go up nice and tight against it. But it will give me the option later on, if I want to run 2-inch collector headers, I'll have a lot more room with that steering shaft compared to most of the new stuff has all that D-tubing and that slip fits. It's really bulky, and the Charger one doesn't route that way, so it'll give me a lot more room, so I'll be able to do something really nice with the headers, especially once I end up turboing it later on. But minus that plate, I'm gonna have Sen cut out. I have a bunch of other brackets for the modules from the Durango Hellcat that I'm also going to have them cut for me and bend, because I had to find places to mount all this stuff, and then I had to design everything, and now I'm going to have them make them all, and everything will be nice mounted in the car. It won't, I don't know, it probably won't look factory, you'll never see it, but it'll be really clean in there. And I tried to cut as much weight off the brackets as I could, while still making them rigid enough so they're not going to vibrate and make a bunch of weird noises. I'm also going to have Sen cut me a revision fuel pressure regulator bracket out. So when I designed this fuel pressure regulator bracket, I actually designed it with the Trackhawk lines, or the Durango Hellcat lines, which are all the way over here. And then I put the Hellcat lines on, and this is the spare Hellcat engine, but the lines are kind of interfering with the regulator. So I'm going to move this regulator down 1.5 inches, so then these lines aren't going to be in the way. It won't be interfering with the lines going into the fuel pressure regulator. And this is all -10 in and out. And then this will go to my custom billet fuel rails. And I'm probably going to end up making kits and selling them, or even just selling the fuel pressure regulator brackets, because this mounts this really nice and clean. You don't ever really have to see it anyway. You can still get to the set screw on top, and then it's going to have the sensor that connects into the factory harness. So then you don't need a pressure gauge on this regulator, because you can see the pressure through the ECU. So I'm going to be putting this kit on the Hellcat Magnum, and also when I put this Hellcat engine in that other Magnum, I'm going to have the same fuel system on that car as well, because I want to turn that up and probably make 800 wheel. And I do plan on doing a giveaway on that car once it's finished and I have my fun with it, because I'll probably be driving this car almost 75 to 90% of the time when I'm coming to the junkyard. Once this thing's running and driving, it is going to turn into my daily. I've been working on it for a little bit over 2 years, and I need to definitely get my worth out of it and get the use out of it that all the work that I've put in it. I need to definitely get that, get that time back and that enjoyment back. I've been building it for so long. So I'm going to end the video here. Super excited that I finally have that whole steering column situation done and figure it out. It'll probably take 2 or 3 days for Sen to send that stuff out. Be able to get the fuel pressure regulator situated and all the lines made, and I'll also be able to get all the modules in the car, and then we'll be able to get that steering shaft from the steering column to the steering rack, and then I can start worrying about the last bit of header routing, and we'll be finally able to start this car up. And also, I should have all the brake lines done for the car So we will be very close to starting her up in the next, probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks, which I'm so excited about. So if you like these videos, make sure to click the subscribe button, thumbs up, throw a comment below. As always, see you guys next time.